All right, welcome to VMware Explorer 2024 coverage. It is day 3, and we are continuing our coverage. We've been interviewing execs all the way down to deep-level engineers. It's been a great week of conversations, and this one is certainly no exception, John.
Yeah, no, I come to the conferences always to learn and also to, teach some sessions myself. But really, the most valuable thing for me is always the customer conversations.
Yeah.
And when I think of customer conversations, I'm not quite sure of anyone who has as many of them as Paul. So
yeah, we get the few at lunch. We get to do the different thing. But yeah, it's someone like Paul, our guest, Paul Lembo. He's in the front line. And so, Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pete, thank you very much. And John, good to see you. It's true. I have spent this last calendar year traveling pretty heavily. Virtually traveling too, and every single week, multiple times a week, I'm talking to customers. So.
Yeah, and candidly, I would think that like in previous years, maybe that would have a different tone to it. Like there's I think something happened about a year ago that was probably top of mind for a lot of customers.
Yes, yeah, help me understand who is Broadcom now.
Absolutely.
I'm talking mostly to customer executives and their lead architects, sometimes some other folks, but that is how most of the conversations start. We knew who you were. Who are you going to be now? Yeah,
I'd love to hear, take a pick, but I'd love to hear what those conversations have been sounding like so far. It's like, what are the questions and how do you deliver, the message of VMware by Broadcom?
Yeah, the questions kind of come in a few different lanes. There's operational ones, there's financial ones, structural ones. But given how much we've changed, I think one of the first one that always comes up, and I like to pull it out, when I meet with someone, what are your questions? I don't want to make you wait.
Sure.
They want to understand pricing and packaging. It's not anyone's favorite topic necessarily, but they're like, help me understand what's happened.
Yeah.
And there's certainly been plenty of press around that and hot takes, as we all know. But I think the key thing to understand, and again, I'm having these conversations with executives, is they got used to us being the Cheesecake Factory. They got used to a menu that had infinite choices and went on for pages and pages.
Yeah.
And we've gone to this place where it's a pre-fee menu, and you can still choose desserts. And that for them is really the change they have to grapple with.
Yeah.
And the way they get through that is they're like, look, we partnered with you for all these years because you write good code. You were never the cheapest day one solution, and you're not today, but you're the best TCO, and you've given us great availability.
Price doesn't equal cost. So
Exactly. And when you're talking to the people candidly that really sign the checks, they understand that.
Yeah.
So the question that they want me to answer is, you've been a great code engine for us. Are you still going to be? Is the R&D there? That's when you want Paul Lembo, that's the question you want me to crush. And if you can do that, then the other stuff's going to work out.
Yeah.
And I'm, hopefully this week has shown we're that company. I've never been more confident that we're going to achieve our mission because of the focus that we have.
No, and it's great seeing, the first taste of some of that execution with 5.2, but also the direction of that execution coming out with 9.
Yeah.
You've been at VMware for a while. You've seen us go through all those stages. What's your personal take on how we're doing it now versus how we were doing it?
It's a great question. One of the other things that I often talk to execs about, because we say, look, it's a new year. There's great new things coming. You meet with vendors all day long. You're like, yeah, you're a vendor telling me stuff's new and next year's going to be better. And the sun rose this morning. Why should I believe you?
Yeah.
They're generally more polite than that, but I really want to stress, because I think there's a big parallel to our customers, that we've had to go through not one but 2 reorgs, in our R&D org. Pre-Broadcom, we were in some ways a medieval kingdom. We had multiple large BUs.
Fiefdoms is what I call them. Sometimes warring tribal fiefdoms.
Warring is definitely a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I love to be candid about the things we got wrong, because I start by apologizing for the things we got wrong. We blew VCF 3 to 4, and we blew it because of NSX. Not the NSX team's fault, but we were maintaining 2 code bases, VNT at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, and that divided the team, and we had divided goals, because when each fiefdom has its own P&L and its own team, and it's thinking about its own competition, the platform suffers.
Yeah.
And the reorg we went through was painful. We lost some good people. And having said that, we've retained a lot of good people, and we've even acquired some new good people. But getting to simpler, to execute better is hard. And we had more than one pass at it. It started under Pat and Raghu, and then the dispassionate view of Broadcom really helped us finish it. But the key now is we're platform first, and products come second. So that 3 to 4 problem is never going to happen again. And to your point, John, the proof's in the pudding already. This isn't some wait for 9 to see it. 4 to 5 was beautiful, absolutely beautiful in terms of upgrade. And then the rate at which we're adding new features and capabilities has improved because we're thinking platform down. not product up. And crucially, the team is aligned. And why do I say that's a parallel? Because I think this is really important. We've had 15 years of customers doing DIY cloud, where they looked like us. And why did our org look like that in the old days? We were mirroring our customers.
Yeah, the customer had a networking team who procured on their own. They had a storage team who procured on their own. They had a compute team. They had a dev tooling team who procured on their own.
Yeah.
And the world has changed. People have a hyperscaler contract. They don't negotiate that with the networking team and then the storage team. So this change we've made, I believe, is crucial for our customers who haven't made it yet to start to make. You heard Hock Tan talk about silos. A lot of customers have made a swipe at that, and like us, that's why I try to show some humility. It takes more than one try.
Yeah.
But once you get it right, you can really do some things, because you're not asking your orchestration or automation or DevOps team to be superheroes and constantly do hard integration work.
Absolutely.
You're letting them focus on the above-the-line services at last.
Yeah, IaaS is a solved problem. I think I heard someone say that once.
That's right. Let us solve it for you.
Yeah.
Now let's expand on from IaaS to PaaS and all the other capabilities.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. So it's been a great week. We've been hearing the message at the general session, talking about simplicity, and I think it's certainly resonating. We were just talking to Krish, and he was telling us, his customer conversations, and it's definitely resonating. But you're in the field, and I'm really curious. You're there talking, as you mentioned, to executives, to the engineers, to the architecture teams. What does simplicity mean at that level?
It's a good question, and I want to recognize we have customers at different scales. Simplicity for an organization with 70 servers is different than simplicity for an organization with 7,000 or 70,000.
Fair point.
Because we have some customers at that scale. And simplicity starts for different people in different places. So I'll put some meat on the bone for this. When I think about simplicity for our biggest customers, the next S is scale. And we talk about what's coming with 9. We're going to be able to address even larger environments with fewer pieces of management software and be able to patch them concurrently at an even greater scale. Because when you're thinking about fleet management at these super scales, like our large financial customers, our large customers in shipping.
It's interesting. We were having this conversation at lunch with a customer who they had, 20, 30 hosts, and they buy new hosts every 5 years. And then the other hand, the operational, you talk to someone who they're like, oh yeah, we buy 750 million hosts in over 5 years, and we just have 50 million hosts worth of servers show up in a data center every 90 days that we have because we have that much hardware that has to be leaving because it's retired. It's the operations of scale. Some things can translate from big to small, but some things are slightly different.
Totally, and just like we want to take care of scale for the big customers, we want to take care of distribution, at the edge differently. For customers where edge is the most crucial business. But like that, I think that medium example of, hey, we buy servers in tens. This Brazilian company I was talking with yesterday, they buy servers 10 at a time, and those data centers are stovepipe from each other. They're, I think, a classic example of a VMware customer. They love vSphere, they're all in with ARIA. So I wanted to make, simple more real for them. Like, you guys keep talking about simple, make it more real. Well, imagine a world where you deploy operations. And then instead of you having to install and configure and certificates and everything else for automation and log insight and network insight, that all happens as a function of the operations deployment. So instead of having to do, in their case,
every internal tenant, every data center, different environment, every vCenter log in one by one and do that cert rollover.
So it's a dramatic reduction in work for them, and they're going to be much more likely to be consistent. And then they're going to get all the benefits. They can pick and choose which federation benefits do I want, which things have to stay stovepiped. So that's, I think, a key thing I want a lot of our not huge customers to understand. We haven't forgotten about you.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of good benefits for you in what we're doing too.
I like it. Well said. Last question for you. You've been here all week. What has been your opinion of just the event? And I know you've talked to a lot of customers. Like, what's your takeaway for this week? And what have you learned, and what are you going to take back to the field?
It's a great question. I think the enthusiasm is what I'm going to remember the most. Seeing the people and getting out, because for some people this is the first time they've traveled since the pandemic. Travel budgets are still kind of iffy for a lot of people, and this has been a tough year for the whole tech sector in terms of layoffs. So there's this different spirit of like, hey, we're still here, we're still doing this.
Right.
I'm excited to be here, and then just people getting to sessions. There've been some great sessions. And then getting to see what's now, because a lot of people aren't on 5X yet. For a lot of people, that's this year. And then seeing what's next has really gotten them fired up. That's been by far the best thing for me.
I love it. Paul, well said. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Virtually Speaking, and enjoy the rest of your trip.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right.